Welcome to Sri Lanka News Capsule. The country head of UNFPA Sri Lanka bade farewell 2 weeks ago. As Kunle Adeniyi departs, his team's impact is clear. 3.8 million Sri Lankans received family planning support. 1,000 midwives trained. 2 solar-powered maternity clinics launched and survival services strengthened via one-stop and emergency waiting areas. I caught up with him for Kaleidoscope News Capsule a few days prior to his departure and asked him what his single most achievement has been during his tenure.
I arrived in this country January 2022, and a couple of months later things began to go a little bit south, and we were called by government and the people to respond to the needs of our major constituency, women of Sri Lanka. I would say our major achievement at UNFPA was to be able to support government. We raised funds and we supported with life-saving medicines that were critically, as you know, in critical shortage at that time. But not only that, they say never waste a good crisis. I think that also created an opportunity to do some positive things, strengthening maternal health outcomes in Sri Lanka, but also doing critical investment in prevention and response to gender-based violence. And I think that time, from mid-2022 to this moment, has defined our work and our value to this country.
So like you mentioned, from mental health to gender-based violence initiatives, what has been the most tangible impact that any of those projects have had at grassroots level?
When I go to the peripheries and I see women who have been victims of violence and the safety that they've been able to receive and the care and support that they get is key. Again, it's difficult to speak about one thing, but I would say the thread will be safety, protection, and wellness for women and girls. Because, for example, maternal health outcomes in Sri Lanka have been strengthened and the care of women is key. Over 600,000 people access drugs and medicines that we were able to bring into this country at that time, and I think it's a big achievement for us. Now when I go to police stations and I see police stations having women's centers where women can come and feel unjudged and just be able to come with their care, and I see the police and women interacting so well. That was a novel idea that we introduced to the country, and it's been scaled to 14 police stations now. And the police itself has said they're going to scale it to almost all the police stations in every district, and that is using a crisis to build a sustainable model for the country.
Mobile clinics, emergency obstetrics care, cash vouchers that you give. What challenges proved hardest to solve and why?
The mobile clinics were was also very telling because Sri Lanka has really achieved a lot in providing general access to wellness. But oftentimes there are people left behind. The mobile clinics went to the most difficult places and put together mental health and social support, obstetric care for women, and were able to reach them. What are the problems that I see around this? It will be, crises also show weaknesses in systems, logistics, to move medicines and drugs, sometimes around imports and clearance of medicine resulted unfortunately in delays, to provide access and challenges, but also introducing new things and ways of doing things to a system that has been here for over 200 years can be a challenge. But we've seen more progress than challenge when I look at it, and so I would say the challenge will be around logistics, movement of drugs and medicines, access. However, I would say the positive far exceed the challenges, and that's so gladly.
So you supported the CSC with sign language SRH tools. What lasting change did you hope to see in education and inclusion with this?
Comprehensive sexuality education is an interesting one, and for us that is the fulcrum or backbone of everything we're doing in sexual and reproductive health. We believe that what we are sharing now to a generation in their 20s and 30s, we shouldn't be saying the same thing to people who are in school now, because Sri Lanka has a very solid educational system, but we believe that it should not only be mathematics and English they are learning. They should be able to learn how to take care of themselves and to make informed decisions. We don't want the incidences of teenage pregnancies that are happening in some parts of the country when it can be preventable and avoidable. A girl should be able to say no. A child should understand their body and that autonomy. So working in comprehensive sexuality education can be a bit of a challenge because we already have nodal models in schools, and it can be difficult to change. We're very pleased, however, that with the government we are able to really take it back to school and expand knowledge on the sign language tools. That is again typifying. I'm glad in that, and thank you for mentioning it. For people who do not have other ways of learning, people with disabilities, it was very important because when we generalize solutions, sometimes we forget this group. The sign language tools have been very helpful in reaching people that would have been left behind, the most vulnerable, people with disabilities, to communicate, for us to hear from them, and for us to give them access. And when you get the feedback from these people, it's so solid. And we also learned a lot from them. Many things that we took for granted that we didn't know, we were able to do that. And we're believing that with that, we broaden the base of autonomy for the Sri Lankan girl and woman, understanding for the young person to know what to do, how to treat, and how to behave in relationships. And I think that is very, very, very good.
How much of your work has actually shaped population policy, planning for population policy in the country?
Sri Lanka's population is aging, rapidly aging, one of the fastest aging population in South Asia. But we're also witnessing fertility decline. I mean, women are not having the number of children they probably used to have 20, 30 years ago. That could lead to something we call demographic anxiety, right? A policymaker is worrying for the labor force. Okay, how will I supply my labor force? Who's going to work in 10, 20 years' time? So for our working population, we really try to support the country in making sure that evidence-based decisions are made and not based on political or other motives, which is difficult. So we are happy to say, one, we've supported the census because what you don't count, you don't know. The current census results are being released, so we have counted every person in Sri Lanka. And when you have that figure, and I'm proud to say UNFPA is the only agency that supports country because nobody wants to go to that level of big data. So we've done that, and we continue to do that. We've also supported the development of what we call the Sri Lankan Strategy for Development Statistics. Is to basically warehouse all the data system in the country so that policymakers can see good data that can inform development policies. And now we also have, working with the University of Colombo to have a center of excellence for research and knowledge in population and all these areas. The idea is that this system works from the top policy level to be able to create data and evidence. Hopefully, at the country is the policymakers that are equipped with relevant, solid, and evidence-based data to shape, the population policies that work for Sri Lanka.
As you make your way out, what's your lasting message to the Sri Lankan people?
I saw a beautiful country, open, ambitious country, but a country where everybody loves Sri Lanka. And I think that is the fundamental strength that this country has. And that's why I think the resilience of the Sri Lankan person comes from. The soul is that people have gone through a lot, but the country remains resilient and there is ambition. Everybody wants to make Sri Lanka the best place. And I think that is the message of hope that carries on. Sri Lanka has gone through an economic crisis. Sometime in 2022, we couldn't buy fuel for our cars, electricity wasn't there, but it has also rebounded in record time because everybody wanted it. The beauty of how we were purchasing fuel with vouchers quickly in 2022, I have never seen it anywhere, and I've worked in many countries. And so that is my message. The hope, the belief is something I will take away, I would love to share, and I believe that Sri Lanka can only continue to rise from this, and I see that this country will grow stronger if we continue to take the tenets of humanity into play. So I'm very hopeful and bullish about Sri Lanka.
So in the long term, where would you like to see Sri Lanka in the areas that you have worked in?
Sri Lanka has really done well in the areas we have worked in, and Sri Lanka is very proud of the outcomes of maternal health. For example, less women are dying while giving birth. Sri Lanka can do more in many areas. For example, the equality, women labor force participation, because these are the things that will take Sri Lanka to the hope that I spoke about in my first question. We're not at a place where Sri Lanka would need to work on equality, bodily autonomy. The woman should decide when, if, and how many children she has. The support for women to participate meaningfully in the labor force, and the right for every young person to have access to education and information that helps them make the right decision. If we equalize this across board and we provide young people with access, they will get jobs, they will contribute to the nation, and Sri Lanka will be fast on its path to becoming a developed nation, which it seeks. But not only that, every human in Sri Lanka will feel like they live in a country that loves and supports them to be the best they can be.
Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Follow us, like us for more.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Silico Life.